Hi, my name's Steve Simpson and I work as a mind coach. So thanks very much for finding me and finding my channel. Now this short video is in the Help series and I started it a few weeks ago because I get emails every day from around the world and there are some very common themes. And so I thought if I can group together some of the most common questions I get asked, then it might help people who are thinking about these things as well. So the request for help on this one is, help. Can you help me with my phobia? Well, I can in many cases, and in some cases I can't. But let me just explain really what a phobia is, because I would imagine almost every person has some kind of phobia. Common ones are spiders, snakes, being trapped in enclosed spaces, fear of heights, fear of driving on motorways. That was a recent one that came up. And the list is endless. And when I do meet these people in person, one of the first things that I will say, and I say this in a number of different circumstances as well, is during this consultation, I'm not really very interested in anything that's going on in your conscious mind. And so that you don't take this personally, I'm really not interested in much that's going on in my conscious mind either. But what I am fascinated by is what's going on in your unconscious and my unconscious too. And if we can get those two minds to connect in some small way and spark off each other, then we just might find an answer. Because answers in my experience, and I know that I'm far from alone, is that the unconscious mind is way more powerful and faster than we believe possible. And so that's where these changes are going to be made. And the other reason why, as far as phobias are concerned, is that I'm not really interested in the conscious mind, is because you cannot, it doesn't matter how many hours, days, months and years you spend thinking about your own phobia, you will never find a rational reason for it. It is an irrational, that means it doesn't come from the conscious mind, it's irrational, or what we think is irrational, because it comes deep within the unconscious, in the part of the brain that I call the reptile brain. Now, let's say, let's take the example of a spider, of a fear of spiders. It's quite possible that as a child we were exposed to a spider, we didn't really know what it was, and we didn't like its long legs and the way it perhaps crawled over our hands or whatever it might be, and we became frightened. We thought this spider was dangerous. Well, as we become an adult, we know that most spiders aren't dangerous, and yet some people are still terrified of them. They can spot a tiny spider as soon as they move into any room, and they'll go around their bedroom at night trying to destroy, or at least hopefully capture, these spiders and take them to a different place. So logic won't get us there. We have to break this bond that has got set up in the deep unconscious mind, and that is why there's a lot of similarities, I believe, in phobias and post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder is highly resistant to conventional medical treatment, and yet there is a technique that I and some others use quite successfully with many people who've tried everything else without any result. Now, the main difference between phobia and post-traumatic stress disorder is that, generally speaking, there is a real reason why somebody has PTSD rather than an imaginary one going back to childhood. But apart from that, they seem to live in a more or less the same part of the brain, and the same treatments that I use seem to be effective in at least some cases. So that's a brief explanation of a phobia. I have got other videos where I actually give real live on-stage demonstrations of me fixing or attempting to fix somebody with PTSD at least. And as I said, it'll be a similar procedure with phobias as well. So have a look at that. The technique that I use, by the way, is, well, I have a cocktail of techniques that I bundle them all together, things that I've learned over the last 40 years to be effective. And the cornerstone for these kind of conditions is hypnosis, and overlaid with a technique that is called havening. And havening, H-A-V-E-N-I-N-G, is something you can look up, and certainly the videos that I've made on it with, in some cases, quite spectacular success. So I was going to say, I hope this answers your questions about phobia, but it probably doesn't. But at least it gives you a bit more information, and at least hopefully will save you some time trying to search for some rational reason. Why am I frightened of spiders? Why am I frightened of driving on a motorway? Because the chances are you'll never find out. So, more coming soon. Thank you. Goodbye.